Welcome, everybody. It is your boy Ango, and I am here joined by Billy TKO.
What up?
Nice little impromptu stream. It is December 19th, 2023, and I figure let's talk a little bit. We didn't go live in the past week or so. A lot of things happening in the real world that we had to take care of,
Absolutely.
get through. But nonetheless, we're here. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened on Raw. But I want to kick things off with an announcement that WWE made. One that I've been very happy about, one that I think has been very exciting to see, and I want to know what you guys think in the chat. As always, I'll pull up super chats and comments and all that good stuff. So if you guys want to support the channel, feel free to do so. You can subscribe, you can like, you can comment, you could do all of those things. But if you want a guaranteed shout out, super chats or donations on ango.live, we'll guarantee that for you. Billy TKO, welcome to the show.
My man, thank you for having me.
All right, buddy. So before we can talk about Raw and all those other things, WWE announced WWE Raw Day 1.
Yeah. That's going to be a fire show, dude. It looks to be stacked.
Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Ivy Nile versus Rhea Ripley. I mean, dude, this is kind of cool. This is what AEW has done for a while. Impact has done the same.
Yeah.
NXT has done it for a while. Now we know that New Year's Revolution Smackdown will be taking place at some point in a few weeks. And then now they announced WWE Raw Day 1. This is a huge change for the WWE main roster, making their weekly episodic shows feel actually like more important.
Right. Exactly. They feel super important right now.
I like it. And the reason why I kind of want to talk about this was because this was something that I felt like was it was a really cool thing when AEW did it. It became a really cool thing when NXT did it. It just spruces up the weekly television.
It does.
And obviously we're watching Raw, we're watching all these shows, and we're kind of seeing what's going down. And you know, the crowd, by the way, last night in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
They were on fire. Like
dude,
great crowd.
Amazing.
So I think maybe I'm wrong, but when you kind of make these announcements and you start doing these shows, and you kind of brand them as a special event, I feel like that's also going to play into the crowd when they do it, which I don't know what city they're in for that, but definitely something I want to talk about for a second.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you just overall your reaction to WWE trying this new change.
So number one, I'm a fan of it, right? Because obviously day one, we knew the pay-per-view, whenever it was. But I think just making it a regular show, it kind of shows the importance. I think you said it best. It shows the importance behind just where they're trying to go with their weekly episode TV. It makes it exciting, it makes it fun to watch, it makes it unpredictable, which obviously in the world of wrestling, we appreciate unpredictability. You know what I mean? So definitely excited to see where they're going to go with this. I'm actually really looking forward to it, if I'm being honest with you.
So then it kind of, I don't want to jump the gun too early, bro, but they're announcing Ivy Nile and Rhea Ripley. And
yeah,
there's something that's been weighing on my mind a lot, and I've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think I've ever really done a deep dive into it.
Okay.
But WWE is kind of doing something where they are reconditioning the entire audience.
Yeah.
And nobody knows this. Nobody realizes this.
Mm-hmm.
Ivy Nile ain't going to win against Rhea Ripley, buddy.
No, but it's to get Ivy Nile the exposure.
It's the showcase.
It's just like the Creed brothers last night. That's a different... We'll get into that.
That's literally what is happening in WWE television. See, for the longest time, Vince McMahon has conditioned wrestling fans to care about those one little moments, those like one little big things that happen a couple times a year, the virality stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now Triple H is like, yo, we're going to give you the small storylines, the big storylines, the slow burn storylines.
Yep.
We're going to put matches together where maybe the IWC will complain because so-and-so didn't win. But the idea is to recondition the audience to say, hey, this matters and this person matters. And we're seeing that a lot in WWE television today. Probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm actually even enjoying WWE television, because like I'll be the first to admit it. Like, I like Ivy Nile. Yeah. I thought she was awesome in NXT with the Creed brothers.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I was a huge fan of Diamond Mine, the original and the secondary version.
Right.
But I had no idea where Ivy Nile would fit into the main roster. So
it seems like they're going to find a spot for her. She's more buff, you know what I mean? I definitely think she has a place on the main roster.
it's look at how they're doing this though. She's going to go up against Rhea Ripley, and it just, again, it's a showcase thing. It's reconditioning your audience, and I do genuinely believe that WWE, in a sense, is not only reconditioning the audience, but they're basically telling you that every person on TV matters. The people that you see on TV matters every single week, despite winning and losing. So now that makes me wonder, Billy, do wins and losses actually matter?
It seems like they feel more important than they used to. You know, there's the amount of DQ finishes that we see. It feels like there's none really, at least watching. Right? I can imagine there's been some, but
yeah,
watching on a weekly basis, it feels like these wins and losses, like it leads to something.
yeah.
Like take Drew McIntyre for example, you know, winning his match against Sami Zayn and then building himself even, and then they mentioned Crown Jewel and how he had to build his way back to get this title shot. Those things make sense. You know what I mean?
Well, I think too, the thing that doesn't really get brought up is that like losing a match, for example, is not always a bad thing, right? We're seeing that with Drew McIntyre, because last night on Raw, Drew McIntyre, which it goes, we talked about this before on another Raw review, but then you made the video about the most logical heel turn ever.
It just gets more logical as time goes.
It gets more better. Like each week, I'm like, holy shit, I'm so impressed by this guy, because Drew McIntyre, this dude, okay, hold on. Let's backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
They have Drew McIntyre come out to Seth Rollins, and he goes, calling him a real leader because of the way he confronted the CM Punk situation.
So we're playing into that right away.
So CM Punk's not even on Raw, and you got Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins basically like they're kind of like touching on it, right?
Yeah.
Then Drew McIntyre talks about not being able to see his family, not being able to do all of these things like a work-life balance and stuff, because he's always on the road.
Is like a real life thing that's actually happening, which makes this even better.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Drew McIntyre has been the workhorse for WWE throughout the 100%. Pandemic and everything. So
yeah,
it feels real. It makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But the big thing was with this promo, it just felt so real, and everything that he's kind of been doing, like, it's working very well, right?
Yeah.
But Drew McIntyre didn't get there by having a whole bunch of wins and being the world champion. He got to this point because of the match at Clash at the Castle, because of losing to Seth Rollins a million times. Like,
right.
There is something special about what WWE is doing in this regard, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's so much going on, like, long term, but it's not taking you forever to figure it out. They're putting it right in front of your face, right off the rip.
Right, exactly. You're getting hit with it instantly.
So imagine if WWE, right, especially with like the Triple H and Endeavor regime, like imagine if they announced day one, the first week that Triple H was in office. It would have looked desperate. It would have looked like WWE was just throwing things out there just to make change all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But if you've been looking since the time Triple H initially came in to now, and then you're looking at this Drew McIntyre promo and the Seth Rollins promo, we're getting a WrestleMania main event level match on free television. On a regular Raw.
Yep.
And all they had to do was brand it just slightly differently.
That's it. And it feels important. And I just stress that enough, that this feels like important TV. Like, not to go back to an old era, but at one point it was just, we were getting Raw 52 weeks out of the year. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I enjoy wrestling and I enjoy Raw, but make me feel something. Make me feel it going into this. That way, you know, for instance, right now I'm a big football fan, and they're, you know, going back and forth with Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Make me want to choose Monday Night Raw over Monday Night Football. And for a while, that wasn't the case.
That's difficult, by the way.
It is.
Even so, and one thing I will say about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, Pistons fan. I know. I get the shit on Twitter, bro. Like, how could you love the Pistons? I'm starting to freaking hate them. Yeah. But like, there would be times where it's like, I really want to watch the Pistons game, you know, and Pistons might be going up against Raw, NXT, Dynamite, Impact, Smackdown, whatever. Yeah. Obviously, the basketball schedule is different. But for me, I love watching basketball. I love being in touch with what's happening in the NBA. And the one thing that I've always noticed was, like, I would have to do dual screens.
Yep.
So I would watch wrestling with the headphones on, watching wrestling, and then on the other screen it would be basketball, because as long as I'm paying attention a little bit to it,
You don't necessarily need the commentary in the
exactly.
basketball
There's
world.
no storytelling
Right.
in basketball or football.
Right.
The thing about live sports, though, is it is very difficult to watch live sports on DVR.
100%. You don't want to go back and watch.
Once you know the scoreboard and you see the box score and the stats, you don't go back and watch.
No,
You're like,
this is what happened.
especially now the Pistons they got like 50 million straight losses. They look like shit.
They lost to the Atlanta Hawks, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, but see, like that's the thing though, right? Like with wrestling, you can always go back and DVR and watch it afterwards.
Exactly, because wrestling's 3 hours long, so there's always something that maybe you missed or maybe was misinterpreted over social media. So you always want to go back and watch it.
So it's an interesting thing that I'm realizing with WWE. It's like they to recondition the audience. It's not short term, and it's not just long term storytelling. It's the right business and booking decisions long term that get you to the point that tune in. And like I said, like with Ivy Nile, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, I don't know how she's going to work on the main roster. And the cool thing is, it's not that they're rushing her on the main roster; they're putting her out there,
right?
Just like with the Creeds, it's a little bit different. They don't really give a shit. They're like, yo, Creed brothers, we know you're not as well polished as you should be,
right?
But fucking go out there and do something crazy. And these guys go in main event with the Judgment Day, and holy shit, man!
I just hope everybody woke up to the Creed brothers a little bit last night.
Oh, I think so, man. How do you watch this show? How do you watch this show and not be like, damn, these guys are special? And let me ask you this.
Bring it on.
How the fuck do you not push Julius Creed as a singles guy?
Eventually, they probably will. Eventually.
Well, it's tough because Brutus Creed is also sick.
So the thing is right, so where we are stagnant in this moment in time, they work together as a tag team and they want to condition them as the tag team, right?
Yeah.
But in time, and I think it was, I forget which Creed it was. It might have been Julius, where they mentioned that Kurt Angle was like his like idol. And I was like, oh, well, if that's the case, this guy, he's bound to be good, right? And then you watch the match and you watch it in whole. And you got to think, like, a lot of people don't watch NXT, so they don't know much about the Creed brothers. But getting the holy shit chance last night, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. There it is. Now, another thing that I want to mention, the logical side of it is something that I think they'll play into.
Yeah.
Is that I forgot who got pinned. Which Creed brother was it?
I think it was Brutus.
I think it was Brutus. He kicked out, actually.
Yeah, at the 3.
Yeah.
It's the small detail, bro. That's a
work.
Small detail. It's a work.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad you brought this up.
Bring it out.
We just talked about, do wins and losses matter? And I say, no, they don't.
Yeah.
It's just how you do it.
It's how you do it.
It's how you do it. I don't understand why people have a hard time with this concept. And I also think because wrestling is pre-scripted and everything like that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, people forget that. If you want the Creed brothers to be top stars, you could eventually get there no matter how you want to get there.
Exactly.
My issue with pro wrestling, and it's been pro wrestling, not just WWE, but pro wrestling in general, they've never really leaned into the logical side of how somebody loses. It's just, oh, they lose, and then next week they get repackaged or whatever, and all of a sudden they're big, bad, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those things where I think, like, the Creed brothers losing, they look good.
Good in the loss.
And not only do they look good, but it's like, oh, again, WWE does not care that they're not polished.
Like, imagine next week they're going to play into this kick out thing. Adam Pearce is like, oh, we'll actually go roll back the footage or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
What they really need to do, and I keep saying this, I feel like it's becoming redundant and people are going to get annoyed by this, but like WWE just needs to split up the tag titles. There's not one person, 100%. I've seen it on my Twitter. The tweet went freaking viral and people were sitting there like they don't have enough tag teams. I'm like, here's 20 of them.
I seen the list. I was like, oh, that's a big
they don't
list.
have tag teams. Apparently, Billy, they don't have tag teams. And here I am dropping the list of tag teams. There was maybe 2 or 3 on that list where there's injuries. Xavier Woods is out for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Eric is obviously out because of I think it was like the neck fusion.
Yep.
And Sheamus is out, which we don't even know what's going to happen with Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes when they come back.
I think Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. I think that was on your list. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good SmackDown tag team.
And you split up the tag teams, and here's the good thing. You start creating these tag team
And guess
matches
what?
with a
More
little bit
people are
more
getting
meat.
more TV time. That's
No,
another
Billy.
thing.
No, Billy. We don't want people to have TV time. We don't want that.
That's bullshit, dude.
No, of course, man. The tag team division, I think that's probably, in hindsight, that might be Vince McMahon's one of his biggest mistakes that he's made,
Yeah.
is not really caring about tag team wrestling, because Vince McMahon back in the day, he created like this infamous, this whole thing where you look at the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and the Hardys, and you see all these guys doing these great tag team matches back in the day, and obviously the infamous TLC match.
And
You
they live
see
up
those.
to that.
You see it, and then you see going forward, like the tag team division never really got that same opportunity to show out like that.
Exactly. It hasn't been. Although I will say the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, the Usos, that felt important, obviously, because of the story at the time. But that is the most important that I think in a really long time that those tag belts felt.
That was the first time a tag team match ever main evented at WrestleMania. Tag team championship match, I believe.
Right. Yeah. Because
I could be wrong.
won.
Don't fact check me. Don't,
It's WrestleMania 1. It was the tag team match that main evented.
Yeah, but I'm saying like tag team championship.
Yeah, the championships have never main event.
That's what I'm saying. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty positive they were the first tag team championship match. Obviously, Sami Zayn created. This guy, he's also off of TV for a little bit, healing up.
That's gonna be great.
But that's what I'm saying. Like right now, there's just a lot of good things that are happening. But kind of going back to the tag team thing, like there's a huge list of tag teams in the WWE. By the way, there's also a list of people not being used. And, for those like Apollo Crews, like he got drafted. He's not on TV. Omos was undrafted or whatever. He's a free agent, but he's not on TV. Odyssey Jones, not on TV. Cedric Alexander, he's a little bit on TV on SmackDown. But my point that I'm trying to make is that there are guys who are not being utilized that could be utilized for the tag team division. 100%. So not only do you actually have a huge list of tag teams, but there are people who aren't being used, and you could do that. And you got to factor in Gallus, AOP, and other tag teams that could be getting into the mix, because that is what's going to happen.
I really think it's just Triple H trying to condition the audience to understand that the tag team division is important. Main eventing last night, right? It's reconditioning. I think you've stressed that enough. It's going back to kind of the drawing board and being like, okay, these fans have not seen something like this on WWE television in a long time, the casual audience, right?
No.
So the casual audience doesn't, let's be real here, they don't care about the Creed brothers. That probably changed last night. You know what I'm saying? Now they're like, okay, what do they do next?
Can I ask you a question, Billy?
Bring it on.
Respectfully. What to you is a casual fan? Because here's why I ask. Mm-hmm. There is a gray area with casual fans. I don't believe that the audience for a casual fan is, I would say, a very, very large chunk of people who go to WWE shows aren't necessarily a hardcore fan, but they are a WWE fan. And okay. I would not personally say that a casual fan is a WWE fan. Me personally, a casual fan would be somebody who just tunes into Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or whatever at a random time whenever they're bored.
And doesn't like go to a show, doesn't do anything. Okay, so let me give you this.
Yeah.
Right? Your mom and pop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have their young child, taking the young child to the show.
Yeah.
I'll use my own personal life, for example. My stepfather.
Sure. Yep.
He was a somewhat of a big wrestling fan, but not to the point of like, he was going to the shows or anything like that. But what would happen is we would go to the shows together because I was a fan. You know what I mean? So my idea of a casual fan is somebody who is going to go to the show, right? With maybe their son, daughter, whatever, and they're going to kind of become in tune. Now, is there room for growth to become a fan? Absolutely, right? So where, hey, I'm going to start tuning in more now because I found interest in it. I know for me, I wasn't watching wrestling from like 2012 to 2016. I kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't up until my little brother became a fan. My little brother becomes a fan. I watched WrestleMania 32. Zack Ryder wins the Intercontinental title. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
I forgot how much I missed this. right?
Yeah.
So my idea of a casual fan is somebody who, like, for instance, just pops up at a show with their son or daughter, doesn't know anything, but they watch the show and they're like, oh, after work or something like that, I
Mhm.
can tune in. You know what I mean? That's my idea of a casual fan or a casual audience.
So would you agree with me then when I say NXT's audience is primarily just hardcore fans?
I would agree with that.
Okay. And you would agree with me that would be the same for AEW?
I would agree.
And would you agree if I said that there's the fans outside of AEW? Like, would you agree that there's a large percentage of just WWE fans who don't know or don't care about AEW?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the sad truth behind it, but yeah,
Okay. The reason why I ask is because with NXT, it's always been a concern back in the day with Vince McMahon where people would get called up, they would not get utilized, they would not be
Mhm.
on TV, or they would get repackaged. And I've talked to you about this privately. I know I've talked about this on stream. Leo Kruger was a good example.
Yeah.
Leo Kruger in NXT, then he becomes Adam Rose in NXT and then gets called up and he just became a jobber, a nobody, nobody cared.
Yep.
And I do sense that's another change that WWE and more specifically Triple H has made with these call ups.
Yeah.
So even though NXT does have that more traditional hardcore audience, we saw DIY initially and nobody gave a shit. But now
Mhm.
the more you see DIY, the fans are reconditioned and they're like,
Right,
oh,
exactly. When you see him with The Miz too, like last
yeah,
night, you see him with The Miz, you're like, "Oh," because everybody knows The Miz. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, you can The Miz is almost kinda like, I wouldn't say he's on the level, but he's kinda just, like, right here teeter-tottering with it. Like the
yeah,
Cenas of the world, the Rocks, the Stone Colds, you know who The Miz is.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You've seen him on TV.
yeah,
So when you see these guys with The Miz, same with Gunther, right?
yeah,
Oh, he's working with The Miz. Oh, well, I remember The Miz. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So again, it all falls back to this recondition phase of, okay, I'm going to utilize these guys, like the Miz's of the world. And
mhm,
I hate that he's gone, but he was another good person that I thought would have worked and did work in this, was Dolph Ziggler.
yeah,
Just those guys that you just kind of always remembered in the back of your mind. And
yeah.
then if you seen somebody on TV with him, you'd be like, oh, well, why are they on TV with him?
And so it kind of brings me to the Miz.
Yeah.
Reconditioning the audience, right?
Yeah.
The Miz and Gunther.
He's a good wrestler.
What the hell was this, bro?
It was a
What the
good
hell?
it was a good it was a good match.
The Miz is low key having some badass matches, but this one with Gunther was like, wow.
It was great, honestly.
I again, when I say Triple H changes WWE forever,
Yeah.
this has become a point where it's become a point where I think now we have gotten to the stage where the Miz he's getting a chance to show people that he's not as one-dimensional. And I think that is absolutely incredible to see that he's not one-dimensional. And the fact that he's going to these matches with Gunther and doing these things
Mhm.
where he's showing off, like me personally, and maybe this is a bad thing, I don't know. It's not like, oh my God, it's a holy shit moment. But when he does the skull crushing finale from the top rope, it kind of reminds me of like a super AA from John Cena.
That's
It's the
exactly what
most
it reminded me of.
simple move, and it's not
Yep.
the first time he's pulled it off, but when he does it to Gunther, and it's so funny because the Miz is a babyface, which it shocks me to see that this guy is a babyface and he goes out there and he's getting these reactions.
I
Then
love
he
him.
hits this move, and it's almost like they're selling you on the point that the Miz could actually dethrone Gunther. Like, I know deep down inside in my heart, Gunther ain't losing to the Miz, but the fact that they're able to get me for however long the match is, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, it kind of makes me think, wait, are they going to do it? Because the Miz, whether you like the Miz or not, and I
I'm
know
gonna say a lot.
the hardcore IWC fans will be like, oh, he sucks in the ring. He's boring. Oh, he's the same cookie cutter bullshit. The reason why he's one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time is because of his strong character work.
Man, it just comes
And
down
so
to it.
so you have the greatest intercontinental one of the greatest intercontinental championships with the longest reigning intercontinental champion And they're basically trying to tell you that this guy who hasn't been known as the wrestler can go out there and wrestle. They are reconditioning the audience to make you think differently. And whether the IWC wants to respect it or not, that doesn't really matter. But the thing is, you have Gunther out there selling for the Miz, and you have the crowd going nuts for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different WWE. It's this is one of those things where it's like, fuck, like they can do this with anybody. And it goes back to what I was saying. You have like Apollo Crews and certain guys not being used.
Yeah.
Patience is the number one thing you need to have under Triple H's WWE.
Just be patient.
The problem is, I do get the feeling, and I could be wrong, we know morale is very good in the WWE.
Yeah.
But some wrestlers may not be as patient, and that may make them a little bit upset. Now, unfortunately, the solution years ago would have been, oh, WWE's not utilizing you, go to AEW. That's not the solution anymore.
Well, there is another solution.
Tell me, what's that solution, Billy?
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but there is another solution.
Let me hear it, brother.
You know what I'm going to say.
TNA, TNA, TNA.
TNA is alive, and they look well.
Yeah.
They look like they're about to be a big player in the space.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen overnight.
Nope, it doesn't.
It doesn't happen over the night. I think one of the things, too, though, about pro wrestling, and you know, I see it sometimes in the chat. I see it on Twitter. I see it. And we could talk about this, right? I think this would be a good time to talk about this. Maybe it's clip worthy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not really saying anything that's really out of the realm of being real. I think that there's a huge issue where wrestling fans disappoint themselves because they like to troll too much. And they like this concept of, I don't want this company, or I don't want this person, or I don't want that person to be successful. And they do it. They kind of work themselves, right? Like they're kind of working themselves, because if you really, really love Roman Reigns, right? You really love Roman Reigns and you want Roman Reigns to be champion forever. Like, that's cool, right? But there's a lot of people who will sit there and talk about Roman Reigns should never drop the belt, and they don't watch the product. You'll have a lot of people who say this and this, they'll say, oh, DIY sucks. DIY will never work in the WWE. They're just wrestlers and that's it. But they're not watching the product to see that WWE has put them with The Miz in a weird way. You know, it's kind of working and people are reacting to DIY. So I think a lot of people will speak about the product without watching the product. And we've gotten to the point with the IWC where I think a lot of the discourse that you actually see on the internet is fake. It's fake outrage. It's not genuine. I think a lot of people who talk shit about AEW don't watch AEW. I think a lot of people who talk shit about WWE don't watch WWE. I think there's a lot of people who talk about TNA and haven't fucking watched the show since Dixie Carter and Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. So,
and I'll be the first to get up and say, right, that's why as fans, watch your tongue, right? Because you never know what's going to happen next. Because like you said, years ago, looking back, AEW, you can just go there. Now we're kind of looking at it, and I'm seeing Hard to Kill everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every time I look on Twitter, there's something new. Scott D'Amore talking about Hard to Kill, talking about what he's got coming. And you know, I seen a TikTok video where it was like, oh, it could possibly be Sasha. And then on the men's side, it's like, who do you got? And you're like, oh, Dolph Ziggler. You know what I mean?
So, can I tell you something, though?
Yeah, bring it on.
Not to cut you off, but with TNA, I love Dolph Ziggler. I love Mustafa Ali. Yeah, I don't really care for Riddle, but Riddle, obviously, in terms of a wrestling standpoint, he's a good wrestler and he's a good enough name.
Right.
However, I don't think any three of those guys are legitimate, the biggest signings in TNA history.
No, I mean,
it makes me fearful if that is revealed to be the biggest signing in TNA history, because those are the words that are being used. And so this is where TNA has to be careful.
Yeah.
You know, they do have some momentum right now. There's people talking about them, just like there's people talking about WWE. And I'm obviously not saying that TNA is on the level of WWE, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of excitement around the WWE product. And right now, unfortunately, there isn't that level of excitement for AEW as there was in early 2021.
Although, like you said, is it the Continental Classic?
It's fire.
It's good.
It's very good. Continental
Yeah.
Classic. But here's my point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want TNA to make the same mistake that AEW has made.
Stop trying to
where
compete.
not to compete. It's in regards to the announcement. AEW has done these announcements where huge signing, huge announcement. And then every single time they drop the fucking ball. And the reality is, it's not that they dropped the ball because the person that they signed sucks, right? Will Ospreay's huge. Jay White is huge.
Right.
All of these names that they've brought in are huge names. But the reality, and this is one of the things that frustrates me so much with this TNA announcement, I'm frustrated with TNA before TNA even makes the announcement. I'm scared that TNA, I'm having like PTSD that Tony Khan, Scott D'Amore is going to pull a Tony Khan and be like, huge announcement. This is when worlds collide. And then they just announced Dolph Ziggler.
It's Mustafa
Riddle.
Ali.
And by the way, let me just make it very fucking clear. I want those guys to go to TNA. I want Mustafa Ali.
You want to see those guys work.
I tweeted Mike Bailey before about this, and I was like, we need Mustafa Ali versus Speedball Mike Bailey, and just let them wrestle for like 60 minutes. Just let them wrestle. Let them wrestle.
Yeah.
Just let them go. I would love nothing more than for Mustafa Ali to be there. The problem is Mustafa Ali is not the biggest signing in TNA.
There's only one person right now that makes sense on the market.
Mercedes.
That's it.
Or, and I'm just going to kind of throw this out there, Okada. But they announced Okada for this
already.
And not as a signing, but as for the taping. So
right.
It would be kind of cool if they signed Okada.
Yeah.
I'd be ecstatic. I'd be shocked, actually, to be honest with you. And it's not because of WWE or AEW. It's just because Okada always had that.
So there's a lot of because I find it really interesting, right?
Yeah.
That Scott D'Amore used the words "two worlds collide," if that makes any sense. If you guys know what's happening in AEW, obviously they have the pay-per-view of Worlds Collide. That obviously, I get it. A lot of people are just speculating that it's Mercedes. But using those two words in Worlds Collide, it's like, okay, who are we talking about here? Right.
Yeah.
Because Worlds Collide, you can obviously do Okada for that instance.
Yeah.
Right. Because that is two different complete worlds colliding.
Yeah.
But Mercedes, it's like those are two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I see what they're doing here. They're getting people built up for this. They're really starting to gravitate at least an audience that they used to have.
Yeah.
Because you best believe that on January 13th, I'm watching Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
I'm tuning in.
Yeah. We'll be doing, I'm sure you could join me too.
Yeah.
Obviously, but I know for a fact I'm reviewing Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
There's actually a good chance that I might even go to Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to speak on that. But I will say with Hard to Kill, the thing about Hard to Kill that's so intriguing is, and it kind of goes back into the Triple H thing.
Yeah.
TNA has been quietly building their show. And I don't care what anybody says, but they're quietly doing it. They're not raving with big announcements every week. They're just putting on a product. They're saving their money. They're working on their budget and making their budget work in a position where when people are ready to become free agents, they can go after them. And the thing about TNA is when you have Triple H really changing the WWE and really making a drastic change to the overall product at a time where people are starting to lose interest for AEW, and you see that AEW was constantly doing these announcements, new signings, and you're not really seeing AEW jump to the next stage of growth. It's almost like if it wasn't for Triple H doing that and AEW doing that, then TNA would never have a position to be like, let's try something different. And again, I think people, they type what they want to type and they believe what they want to believe. Yep. But I have never said that TNA is going to overthrow AEW. But what I have said is AEW never had a company from behind trying to jump through them. They've always just focused on WWE.
Yeah.
And I actually believe that TNA in this situation could get some serious momentum where now it puts AEW in a tricky situation because AEW doesn't have to worry about the top company, but then they have to worry about a smaller company. And the good thing about that is I do believe Tony Khan is smart enough to realize, hey, we actually have a smaller company
They're
that
trying to compete with us.
and the cool thing about that is TNA and AEW can always go back and revisit a working relationship that would be
Right.
beneficial to them.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying, perhaps maybe WWE looks at TNA and says, there's, we have NXT Level Up, we have some guys. We'll send somebody to TNA. And you know what, TNA, and it has to obviously make sense. But if
Right.
let's just say theoretically speaking, it was Dolph Ziggler,
Mhm.
hypothetically speaking.
Yep.
Dolph Ziggler could go to TNA. Who's to say that Dolph Ziggler doesn't go into a Royal Rumble match?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I wanted to mention, I seen some stuff in your comment section here.
yeah,
AJ Styles.
to sign with Impact, it won't happen.
No, I don't think
To
signed.
appear in Impact,
Right.
very well. We've already seen him do a
The little
pre-tape for
tribute
them.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is that element that wouldn't be shocking if TNA really like started to do some stuff. But it's a cool thing that TNA has gotten to the stage where people are talking about them. And I know the cool thing about the TNA stuff too, and it kind of falls in line with WWE, is you notice that if you look at AEW,
Yeah.
and this is not a criticism of AEW, nor is this a praise about AEW. This is just something I've noticed about AEW. If you look at AEW, Tony Khan has always been very proud of AEW, regardless of what people are saying. He's very passionate about AEW.
Yeah.
And when you look at Impact, Scott D'Amore is typically quiet. Triple H is typically quiet. Yes, Triple H does the media scrums, but it's not like Scott D'Amore. I think when you ask somebody on Twitter, forget about the trolls, because the trolls will just act dumb. But like, if you ask a wrestling fan, like, oh, when's the last time you watched Impact? They're like, oh, I haven't watched it in years because it sucks, blah, blah. They don't even know what Scott D'Amore has done in the last 4 or 5 years.
No, not a clue.
I think that's kind of actually been a benefit for TNA, because when you look at Scott D'Amore being relatively quiet, he's not shooting himself in the foot if they underdeliver or overdeliver. He's just getting the praise. And I do like that element of TNA, because if Hard to Kill delivers Mercedes money, bro, I like, for all intents and purposes, I'll say it on the live stream, from what I've gathered, like the WWE Sasha Banks return thing is like a very legitimate possibility.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing where I've specifically heard it is a very legitimate possibility. It is not something out of the realm. And if I saw TNA bring in Mercedes, it's one of those things where I'd be like, I'm fucking happy for them, bro. I'm happy for them, because TNA has been in a situation where the previous regime, they were not respected, and rightfully so.
Well,
And
I'm just saying it's not like they can't pay it, right? They offered Punk.
no, they could afford it, bro.
Exactly.
But I mean, again, though, this is the IWC we're talking about. Oh, they can't afford it.
Right.
But they don't even know who's writing the show.
Right. Exactly.
And don't get me twisted, bro. I don't think TNA is this company that's like, oh my God, it's 5 stars perfect every fucking time.
No.
But what I've learned about TNA is that, like, for example, I think Tommy Dreamer, obviously legend in the business, right? Impact has the Digital Media Championship. It's a very cool concept. It's like the Internet Championship, but for like TV and social media and all that stuff too. But they have the championship belt, and Tommy Dreamer is holding the belt. And like, I don't have anything against Tommy Dreamer from a wrestling perspective, but I'm looking at like their X division, and I'm looking at their world championship picture. I'm looking at certain guys, and I'm like, why not use this belt as a stepping stone to the X division or the world title? They don't. And I get it. I know what they're doing. I understand their strategy around it. Yeah. But with this new wave of TNA, you cannot be pushing Tommy Dreamer over, Sheldon Jean, who has got a lot of potential, young talent, up and coming, has potential, and he's on TV every so often. I think like there's certain guys where you have to just give them the ball and run with it. And I think for TNA, they could do that.
Yeah.
And if you bring in a Mercedes money, let's just say this is the case. Let's say they bring in Mercedes. There's a lot of talent in TNA that nobody knows about. these guys will benefit greatly from that.
They'll benefit from Mercedes just being there.
Just being there. People, I mean, look at the Impact Knockouts division has always been spectacular, but you bring in Naomi and now people are like, oh, I don't even know who Giselle Shaw is. Wow, this is great. So there's a lot of benefits from bringing in talent and stuff like that.
Right, exactly, because it's now putting other talent over.
I'm telling you right now, if Triple H didn't come into WWE, I don't think we would have ever seen TNA return.
I don't think so either.
I truly don't believe that. I think, and it's not, and again, TNA and WWE, they have like a weird, I wouldn't even say weird relationship. They're on good terms. They have communication. It's pretty well known. Like they've communicated back and forth on things. But when I look at those two companies, and I'm like, man, if Triple H is now running the show and it's doing so well, and AEW is kind of, and I wouldn't even say AEW is bad. I just think the excitement about AEW, it's clearly past the honeymoon phase.
Clearly. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're way past that now.
Let me throw this comment. I just want to throw this up here too because it was gonna read. Humble85 says, "Don't forget Leon Slater." I wanted to mention this. I have talked about Leon Slater on my channel several times. TNA went to the UK. They signed Leon Slater.
Yeah.
Now, just to throw this out there, Scott D'Amore promises that it's going to be more action, higher pace, better pacing for their shows moving forward. We know there's going to be new production. We know there's going to be new championship belts revealed and redesigned and everything like that. Leon Slater was a guy who was going viral on social media because of his Swanton 450.
Yeah.
And this kid, he goes to the UK. He has his match. Scott D'Amore, Frankie Kazarian, smiles on their faces. He signs with the company. This is a very talented wrestler. This kid has a little bit of virality on social media. But when you look at TNA and you have the possibility of bringing in a big name, no matter what, Leon Slater benefits.
Right. Exactly.
Just going back to what we were saying with Triple H reconditioning the audience about how wrestling matters, and
it's the same thing here.
It's the same thing with Impact, but they need a little bit of extra help to do it. WWE has help within the company, and TNA needs a little bit of help from outside of the company. So if you ask me, hey, where do you want Mercedes to go? Of course, I would love to see Mercedes on SmackDown in this women's division. Women's wrestling in WWE has improved tremendously. But if you're talking about the health of the business,
it
Mercedes
fits in TNA. It fits in TNA.
100%.
So I want to just say that Hard to Kill is going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to watch.
It is. You know what else is going to be exciting, Billy?
What's that?
I'm going to talk about this because I feel like it's still a little bit early.
Okay.
But I think this is the first year that I'm genuinely excited about the Royal Rumble.
I'm really excited
in a long time
because it's unpredictable right now. It's unpredictable because I seen something. You still have Gunther kind of weighing in this World Heavyweight Championship picture.
Yeah.
If we're playing off importance, Gunther's important. You know what I'm saying?
I want to read something.
Okay.
Let me find okay. So basically, Sam Roberts. You guys know Sam Roberts? Do you know Sam Roberts? I feel like you know Sam Roberts.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sam Roberts put out a tweet. We follow each other on X. And he's like, after all the fresh opponents have surfaced, Roman Reigns is not losing the title at WrestleMania. And besides, listen to where his last stop would be before he beats.
I listened to the video.
So basically, his idea was Gunther doesn't lose, Roman Reigns doesn't lose, and they clash at Bash
at Berlin. Mm-hmm.
The way he explained it, I was like, damn, I really like this idea. I really, really like this idea. And I said, I don't hate this at all, but I'm super torn because I feel like Cody has to win at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a tricky situation because I do not want Cody to lose. I want Cody to lose.
I think you have more time with Gunther because obviously once Roman gets that belt taken off of him, you do not need to have, you can a year or a year and a half, whatever. You do not need to have another 4-year run. You have time with Gunther.
For the first time in a very long time, I feel like the Royal Rumble is incredibly unpredictable.
So unpredictable because now you have the World Heavyweight Championship, which feels beyond important now.
Yeah.
Because when it first came up, it was oh, it's the B-list title, blah, blah, blah. No, it's the person makes the title.
Yeah.
So when you give Seth Rollins, when you give Seth Rollins that title, it now becomes important. It is no longer the B title.
Yeah.
And now you have guys.
People need to stop. If you don't agree, you can tell me. People need to stop comparing this company within this company. And what I mean by that is Raw is a separate show than SmackDown.
Yes.
So SmackDown's A championship is the WWE championship. And on Raw, the A championship is the World Heavyweight Championship. That's why nobody could tell me that a brand split makes sense, but then you have unified championship belts.
Right.
To have the tag team championship belts unified, but everything else is split up, it makes no fucking sense. And to be fair, it makes no sense even with the women's tag team championship.
The concept in 2004 was the perfect concept for me. They had the World Tag Team Championships. They had the WWE Tag Team Championships. They had the World Heavyweight Championship. They had the WWE Championship. So now they're doing the Women's World and the Women's WWE. It makes sense. United States Intercontinental.
I want to ask you a question, though, because we're talking about the Royal Rumble. There's some unpredictability. Does Cody or CM Punk have to win the Rumble?
I don't think Cody needs to win it. I think Cody can go on.
Early prediction, and we'll probably talk about this as we get closer to Royal Rumble. We could do a Royal Rumble prediction show.
Yeah, we can.
But I'm curious, and we'll kind of come back to this. We'll circle back to this in a month. But who would be your guy to win the men's Royal Rumble?
I'm sticking with CM Punk. I'm sticking with my gut.
Okay.
I predicted it on my channel.
Okay. So now that was initially what I was thinking, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why I kind of want to talk about the Royal Rumble and my excitement is because now I'm fully under the belief, based on watching Raw last night, that CM Punk doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble. Here's why.
Bring it on.
Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins at WWE Raw Day 1.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's going to feel like, again, I said in the beginning of the show, WrestleMania worthy main event for a free episode of Raw TV. It's massive. A match of this magnitude is going to have something fishy going on. One of two things. Damian Priest cashes in successfully. Damian Priest fails his cash in, which probably going to happen. He's probably going to fail his cash in.
Been saying that.
But I will say, you can have CM Punk even get involved to really start the build for Royal Rumble. And then if you really want that Royal Rumble, you can have CM Punk lose because of Seth Rollins screwing him over.
Yeah.
So you can have Drew McIntyre win the World Heavyweight Championship.
So my question to you is does it need the title? Does Punk and Rollins need the title?
Does Punk and Rollins need the title? CM Punk made it very clear he wants to headline WrestleMania.
It needs the title.
Does it?
I feel like, I mean, me personally, I feel like to headline the headlining show,
it should always be the World Championship.
Always should be.
It should always be, and not say World Championship, but it should be the championship matches.
Okay. The A or B championship, whatever.
Yeah. Because I think you could also argue, it's such a weird time, but you can argue Becky and Rhea Ripley can main event. You can argue Sasha and Bianca if Sasha comes back, or Io Sky and Bianca. Like you can make arguments is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For other matches.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. The reason why, and it's tricky because with Punk and Rollins, I don't think it needs a championship belt, but I think it makes it better. So what if, because Drew McIntyre has been kind of sleazy towards CM Punk.
Yeah.
What if you, and this is crazy, but what if you have CM Punk literally hit a GTS? He confronts Seth Rollins in the match. There's a ref bump or something. Yeah. He goes face to face with Seth Rollins. And instead of hitting a GTS on Seth Rollins, he turns around and does it to Drew McIntyre. Seth Rollins pins Drew McIntyre. This is how he beats Drew McIntyre. And the reason is because CM Punk wants to make sure at this stage of the game, it is CM Punk, Seth Rollins main eventing WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you have CM Punk,
cost Seth
the belt, Drew McIntyre wins it, Damian Priest goes to cash in, and
CM Punk stops the cash in, something like that.
He doesn't even have to stop the cash in, but it's Drew McIntyre, whatever. It's a failed cash in. We're obviously leaving out a little bit of detail, but
right.
What if you have Drew McIntyre walk out as champion on day one? He goes into WrestleMania as champion. What if CM Punk goes into the Royal Rumble as he goes into the Royal Rumble, loses the Royal Rumble. At this stage of the game, maybe Cody just has to win it. But then you have CM Punk and Seth Rollins inside Elimination Chamber in the multi-man match. And
for the
CM
World
Punk.
Championship.
So I don't know if I would do it for the World Heavyweight
Or
Championship.
the number one contender.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then you have CM Punk win the multi-man match. CM Punk goes on to face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Does it have to be Seth Rollins and CM Punk at WrestleMania?
Okay. So us as like where we stand right now, right? Because up until CM Punk coming back, everything was cookie cutter. We knew how this WrestleMania 40 was going to go, right? Everything seemed predictable. Now we've stepped into this realm where it is no longer predictable. So I would say that right now, where we stand, right?
Yeah.
Don't change your formula. I can understand why people would like to see what you're talking about. I don't think you need to change your formula. I think right now it needs to be Seth and Punk because we just started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just started. So obviously, I mean, it's one of those things where he could lose at WrestleMania, right? And you could continue it. But I just feel like it's kind of like a playback to the MJF CM Punk thing. They were eventually going to wrestle more times than once. You know what I mean? Cody and Seth, they were going to wrestle more times than once. So somebody can afford a loss as long as they look good in the loss. So right now, I do think that we steer you just stay the course. I get it. All these other guys right now, they look so good, right? They do. Drew McIntyre looks amazing. Jey Uso looks amazing. Sami Zayn looks amazing. They all do. But right now, I think in Triple H's head, he kind of has an idea of where he's going to go with this. And I think it lands at WrestleMania. That's just my personal take on it.
I feel like Royal Rumble is so unpredictable.
I
predicted long before Seth and Punk and all that. Long before I said this last year when Cody won, I said Cody's going to win the Rumble 2 times in a row. And
now looking at it,
yes, it's an interesting thing. I do want to read a super chat. I know Justin dropped this about 9 minutes ago, so Justin, I apologize for skipping over it. We're just in deep conversation. But Justin said, "Do you think in 2004 WWE will give us new or old pay-per-views?" And it kind of goes back to WWE's announcement of WWE Raw Day 1. I think they will do it for episodes of Raw and SmackDown.
So do I. I mean, it's kind of like a play into like NXT and how they've done Vengeance and stuff like that.
So now let me ask you a question because it kind of falls in line with what we're talking about WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do another special episode of Raw before WrestleMania where you shock the world and have somebody completely different win the Royal Rumble? And it's CM Punk who ends up defeating Seth Rollins on an episode of Raw.
Yeah,
on a
and
special episode,
like a Monday night no way out type thing or something like that. Like, yeah, I could see something like that happening.
Because I'm not going to lie, I don't want to see if CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Believe it or not, I do not want him to have a long reign.
No, I don't think CM Punk needs a long reign. I don't even think he needs to win the match.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How opposed would you be to Gunther winning the Royal Rumble, CM Punk defeats Seth Rollins on a special episode of Raw,
mm-hmm.
and then you have Gunther versus CM Punk at WrestleMania?
That's fine. As long as we get Punk and Rollins, although I just feel like you're losing a lot of money. I'm just going to be honest. Looking at the business aspect of it, I think with the World Heavyweight Championship, CM Punk and Seth Rollins offers a lot of money. I tweeted it out. I said they are going to make a lot of money together. WWE might be goofy if they don't do that.
What are your thoughts on hold on. Joe Kozak in the chat. I think one of my mods timed you out. I'll have to talk with my mods because I don't think you did anything wrong. Just kind of throwing that out there. Mm-hmm. I try not to restrict you guys in the chat.
Yeah, I seen them right there.
So, okay. Anyways, I think it's interesting for the fact of like with Gunther. And like again, that's why I don't know. The Royal Rumble to me is very unpredictable this time around because you can go about it so many different ways. And it's like what Justin's saying. If they do bring back these older pay-per-views for Raws, I would love to see a title change, man. And I would love to see a
I think
cash
that
in.
I
And I want
think
to see
those
like those big
that
moments.
that would offer those to be good specials, you know what I mean? Like, it would if we could get a big title change, like, for instance, if, like, Gunther lost on, you know, an episode of Monday Night Unforgiven or something like that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
One of my favorite things that I absolutely loved about AEW since day one was they've done the Grand Slam.
Yeah. Mhm.
And they do it in like that little stadium where
In New
they
York.
New York, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the equivalent would be for WWE to do that, but I would love to see WWE do that where CM Punk defeats Seth Rollins on that type of episode.
Yeah,
CM Punk
because
becomes champion.
it would be tight. It would be because Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega that one time at Grand Slam. Do you remember how big that was?
Brother, it's that company had some great matches,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And they've had great matches with guys who aren't even on that level.
Right, exactly. But I know what you're trying to say.
But that match is like historically speaking, if AEW lasts for the next 30 years, that match is always going to be the match.
Agreed. Highly agreed.
So it'd be cool if WWE could do something like that where they get instead of Arthur Ashe. I don't expect them to do Arthur Ashe, but if they
No.
did a stadium that's similar to Arthur Ashe, 20,000 seats, 15,000 seats, and they do an episode of Raw or SmackDown,
Yeah.
or maybe they even do a super show because people do forget that SmackDown has the 3-year deal. And this
Yep.
is something to consider as well. So Justin, if you're still in here, WWE SmackDown, when it got its TV deal, they are promised four shows on NBC as part of their deal. So SmackDown has the USA deal, but 4 shows will be on on NBC. So on broadcast television, it would be kind of cool if WWE can
If
do a
they took those
massive
4.
one of them became a massive super show
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of treat it like a mini WrestleMania.
That'd be so sick.
You treat it like a mini WrestleMania. You do it in a stadium that's similar to the size of Arthur Ashe.
You could do like a baseball stadium. Like a 50,000 kind of.
Can they sell 50,000 tickets for a regular ass Raw? I don't think so.
No, but I
I
think
don't
you
know.
could give it the caliber.
No. There's stadiums that aren't that exist that are 20,000 seats. But what I'm saying is anything's possible. But what I'm just saying is the Royal Rumble for me feels unpredictable because of the fact that WWE can do something of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Wow. It's interesting, man. It's an interesting time period to be a fan of WWE because I was watching Raw last night. Obviously, there's some exciting stuff happening with TNA and AEW and WWE.
Yep.
And I just feel like right now the product is super hot. And I feel like we're kind of in a situation with while the product is super hot, there's a million things that they can do because they're building stars.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, all 3 of these are really hot right now. All 3 of these companies really are kind of setting themselves up. But I agree. I think that WWE right now has a lot of playing field, if that makes any sense. Like the playing field is big to where you can create as many stars as you want. That's just me speaking. You know what I
Has
mean?
WWE ever had this many top baby faces on Raw?
I can't remember a time where they had this many top heels or top baby faces. You know, looking at Shinsuke Nakamura, he's a great heel. He works well. You know, babyface side, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn. And now we got a heel in Drew McIntyre.
It's so weird, bro. He's not even a heel in my eyes. He's a guy like I sympathize for. I'm like, damn, bro, I feel bad for you.
Well, that's what I say. I'm like, oh, he's a heel, right? It just, again, it really is one of the most logical things I think WWE has ever done. Like, yeah, no, this guy, he has a lot of things bad happen to him, and he just is holding a grudge. I know in your real life, you've probably held a grudge before.
Everybody has. It's human.
Exactly. It's human. So this guy's just a human. So that's why I agree. The sympathizing thing.
Usman Khan put a comment down. I really like this. He says AEW has made WWE step up their game, and it's great for business. And Usman, I agree 100% with this. I feel like WWE, had AEW not been around, WWE probably would have never been sold or merged. I don't think Triple H would have ever come into power. I think AEW has really changed the wrestling industry forever because of that. I think AEW's just their existence in general, it's, and I could be wrong. I don't have like information on this, but I think the Triple H took the NXT AEW thing. He took that hard, man. I think he took that personal in a way, and I feel like that's kind of the reason why he's been super keen on. I think that's why he's been super keen on making sure the WWE product remains hot. I think one of the big things too is that with WWE right now and AEW, WWE, and we said it earlier, but like WWE being this hot, AEW is kind of getting cold a little bit. Then you go and look a little bit at TNA, and TNA is kind of in a situation where they're now starting to gain some momentum. And when you see that happening, I think that's just a good thing. Like there is literally everything out there in terms of wrestling, and there's options for absolutely everybody. And I do think people have forgotten that. Like, I don't know, and Billy, maybe you can kind of help me out here, but in terms of, the just watch everything or just enjoy everything, I don't agree with this. I don't think you have to watch one over the other. I think you have to just watch what you enjoy. And
that's the whole tribalism thing, man.
It's fake.
It's fake. It's fake. No, you enjoy what you enjoy. Who cares? As a one grown man to another, right? I'm great friend. We're great friends, right?
Yeah.
I do not care what you like. I don't. You like what you like at the end of the day.
I talked about MLW today in my video.
Yeah.
MLW, because of their settlement with WWE, they're getting paid.
Yeah.
They're going to use it to hopefully try to sign some new people, maybe do some more shows, maybe give their talent some bonuses, right?
Yeah.
And not that I want to do a deep dive on MLW, but like I know wrestling fans that I've spoken to where they're like, I only watch MLW and that's it. And I'm like, really? That's interesting. Why? Just out of curiosity. Like, what is it about MLW?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't want to be watching wrestling every single day, following storylines every single day.
Dude,
and I don't want to process. I just want to watch what I watch, and I enjoy it. And I tune it in. I tune in when I tune into it. I tune in whenever the hell I want.
Now, will I put myself in the diehard situation? Yeah, I enjoy kind of all wrestling. You know what I mean? I'll kind of tune into whatever I can.
I tune into whatever interests me at the time that it interests me.
It is.
People seem to get bothered by that, but I don't have to watch AEW and I don't have to watch WWE. There's been times where I've skipped out on episodes of WWE and just watch it on DVR because I'd rather do something else with my time.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm like that is because the number one thing about being a content creator full time is that my life is literally dedicated 24/7 to pro wrestling. Sometimes you need to take a break.
Yeah.
So the good thing for that though is that when you watch that, you can enjoy wrestling a lot more. So, for example, there was a time period a couple of years ago where, and it kind of gets brought up a little bit, but there'd be a time where I would watch WWE Raw for 3 hours and then do a review show. And I would literally be on the review show just like,
bored.
I didn't enjoy this. Like there was a couple cool things, but like for me to sit here and talk to you guys about it for an hour or 2 hours, I can't necessarily do it because I didn't personally enjoy it, or I checked out. I wasn't in tune with it.
Yeah.
And that's because WWE at that time was not interesting to me. It was not fun. And, I look at AEW, and when I was covering AEW, there, like, people literally forget that my channel grew because of my coverage for AEW. And people also forget that, like, I was so excited about the product, and eventually they kind of lost me. It doesn't mean they can't get me back. The Continental Classic, I'm watching the Continental Classic and I enjoy it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think the Continental Classic reminds me of what AEW kind of was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And then I look at TNA, and I watch TNA all the time. And I've been the first to admit this with TNA. The reason why I watch it all the time is because it's super easy to digest. It's not overcomplicated. It's not overproduced. It's just super easy to watch. And sometimes you miss an episode of Impact, or you miss an episode of WWE, or you miss an episode of AEW. But the cool thing is that there's so many different companies doing things that can satisfy you if that's what you're interested in.
Exactly.
My interest, and I don't know if I've said this publicly yet, but like on social media and YouTube comments and stuff, I'm done like having conversations or arguments about what it is you enjoy, because I think a lot of people will take shots at me and they'll be like, "Oh, you're biased towards WWE." First of all, I get zero money from WWE or AEW. That's the first thing. Secondly, who gives a fuck if I was biased? Because if I was biased, let's just say if I was biased towards a wrestling company, just actually use your brain and think about how it benefits me at all. And then secondly, you have to use a little bit of common sense and realize that I made the most money in my life primarily talking about my opinions on AEW.
Yeah. Yep.
So for me to not talk about AEW tells you that I'm taking a financial hit as well.
Right.
So at the end of the day, if I'm not interested in something, I don't talk about it. When I talk about wrestling news, I talk about the AEW news that interests me. I talk about the WWE news that interests me.
Yeah.
And that's why typically, like with AEW, and I said it that day, I made a video on More Angle. I'm like, the Continental Classic might draw me back in. Because when Collision started, the first few episodes of Collision, I was like, oh God, this is so fire. This doesn't even feel like AEW or WWE. It feels like
its own.
It felt like its own thing. And then obviously Collision kind of
took a dive.
It's just how it was. And I have Barry Allen in the chat. I'll address this too. Bro, you were the guy saying worse for Bray Wyatt. I'm probably the biggest Bray Wyatt fan that I know. And I was literally questioning Bray Wyatt and LA Knight's booking.
Yeah.
And RIP to Bray Wyatt, my favorite wrestler of all time. And I remember looking at that, being like, I'm just not interested in this feud. And it sucks because it actually ended up being something I enjoyed.
Right.
First of all.
Yeah.
Did I speak on it too early? Yeah, but that's what I do. I analyze wrestling. I literally talk, like, I don't think that I'm going to enjoy this. I think, but the thing about the Bray Wyatt and LA Knight situation,
it was a thing where not two guys could have taken that loss at that time.
That's how I felt. And then Bray Wyatt won. LA Knight eventually recovered from it, and now he's the biggest star on SmackDown. But also, like, I look at wrestling and I'm like, I remember how many people would talk about the Bray stuff with Hell in a Cell or whatever, and they would hate it. And I was sitting here on YouTube defending it, and people are like, you're biased for defending it. And I'm like, no, it's the cool opinion to hate it. But this is literally the type of wrestling that I love. This is the type of stuff that I enjoy. So it's interesting to me with how wrestling is. I feel like you don't have to enjoy all wrestling. You just have to enjoy what you enjoy, whether people enjoy it like you. And I think I see people, they're criticizing the Continental Classic, but I'm enjoying it. The reason why I'm enjoying it is it does remind me of the G1 Climax. It kind of reminds me of some old stuff that TNA used to do with Bound for Glory.
Yep.
Like, there's things that I see on television that just pertain to me. And I think one thing that needs to be said publicly for wrestling fans in general, don't enjoy all wrestling. Enjoy the wrestling you enjoy. And that right there makes your wrestling experience better, because I will tell you this. I am very fed up with the Roman Reigns stuff now.
Yeah,
The stuff that they cooked on SmackDown, cool. They were cooking. But I want Cody to win.
That's it.
I want Cody to win.
That's
so
it.
Guess what, buddy? I don't care how much they cook. I want Cody to win.
So, right.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me personally. And Billy, I will say one more thing before we get off.
Yeah.
I will say there was a comment that I seen.
Okay.
And this is, in hindsight, one of the things that I love. Anthony Oderwald says the biggest thing you have to love about WWE is how Triple H keeps you guessing and invested in the storylines.
100%.
And I will say this, because this is a very big part of one thing I loved about Raw yesterday. I thought Raw was very well done. I did not know or think WWE would have Katana Chance and Kaden Carter win the women's tag team championships.
I did.
You had a feeling?
I knew it in my heart.
I had no idea.
I knew it in my heart watching it. And I'm one to sit up and I'll say, like, yeah, if I didn't feel it, I won't say anything about it. No, I really felt in my heart of hearts, I feel like they are about to recondition this women's tag team division to a different level. Look at Natalia and look at Shayna Baszler and look at those two situations when right after they won the titles, that happened.
Yeah.
They are about to recondition you into these the Kabuki Warriors.
Yeah.
There are tag teams. There are tag teams. They can make this division good. Triple H is about to make this division
I
good.
didn't expect it, bro, and I was shocked.
It starts with those two.
I didn't expect R-Truth and the Judgment Day to be so fucking funny. Dude. I did not expect any of this. And the cool thing is, it's these little things that they do that are like, damn, I gotta guess. I gotta keep watching. And
can we talk about Damian Priest and how he broke really bad during that R-Truth segment?
Dog. Let me tell you guys something about wrestling. It looks like these guys are actually having a good time.
Yep, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
It looks like they're having a good time. And the funny thing is with WWE, it's like a breath of fresh air. And I will say something too. I know people hated, and I don't give a shit. People hated the Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega promo on AEW. And then we obviously find out that Kenny Omega is like, he got diverticulitis.
Yeah.
He may or may not have allegedly been on some medication before that promo. I don't know. But I look at that promo, right? And then I look at Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes on the press conference. And I look at R-Truth trying to crack Damian Priest. And I look at Jimmy and Jay messing with Roman and Sami Zayn and all that stuff.
Yeah. Dude,
I love that shit. I like to laugh, bro. I like to laugh.
It makes it fun. You want to know what made me laugh today?
What made you laugh today?
So hold on. Where Trevor 9193 in your comment section. He talked about my hat. Everybody had something to say about this hat. The Kango. It's the Kango hat. I just want to say it made me laugh. He said I look like Braun Breaker with this hat on. I thought it was hilarious.
Brother, you need to get a pen and draw in the beard, and then you'll look like Braun Breaker.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I get it. I like to laugh though. I like to giggle a little bit when I watch wrestling. I like to crack a little bit because I watch wrestling from an analytical side and I'm constantly judging things, and that's how I've always been with wrestling. It's been my full-time job
nice
now.
To take a step back.
And that's why when people are like, "Oh, the Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega thing sucked," I'm like, "Bro, these guys are just having fun and they're just saying random shit." And it's like, not everything needs to be as serious. And I think the world is. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world without getting into specifics, but there's a lot of things that are happening in this world. It's very easy to go on social media and more specifically X, and everybody is just being a piece of shit asshole to one another.
Take a step back and enjoy life, man.
Exactly. And if you watch wrestling and then you watch the show that you enjoy, then that's fine if it makes you happy. And I think wrestling is fun when there's comedy. I think wrestling is fun when you have the characters and you have these guys joking around and make each other crack up. And I like that element of it. And I love the fact that when I was watching Raw yesterday with Judgment Day and Damian Priest is trying to hold it in, and dude, it's like, okay, this is stupid. But JD McDonough's wearing the bandana backwards. And I'm like, bro, like, it's silly shit, but it's okay because you know what? For 3 hours, I was able to watch it, kind of tune out a little bit.
Right.
And just like enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think some people, and this includes me as somebody who talks about wrestling, but if you hear me talk about something, it's because I genuinely enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, I make it known why I don't enjoy it.
Right.
And
exactly.
The thing is, like, because I'm super analytical with pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I get those elements of fun. I think people are shocked to find out that I like that stuff.
Yeah, of course. People are always going to be shocked at stuff like that.
But I love the fact that wrestling has it in today's day and age because of the fact that wrestling for a while was getting to the point where, at least for me, and I think this is the reason why WWE in 2023 is the best wrestling company. It's because of the fact that, and Anthony kind of mentioned it in the chat, where it's like they keep you invested and they keep you intrigued. And it's weird to say this because sometimes I question, like, well, what is WWE's plan with Nikki Cross?
Yeah, and then
I
you see last night.
I don't know, but now I'm intrigued. And
100%.
maybe part of me thinks they got nothing planned for Nikki Cross. They're just doing this weird shit. But they keep doing it and they keep doing it. And it's a very small element of the show, but you see it and you're kind of like, oh, something is brewing.
And it makes you want to pay attention.
And then there's something brewing with Karrion Kross on SmackDown that nobody's talking about. And we're not going to talk about that right now because I'll talk about it for 30 minutes. But there's some small stuff that I'm looking at and I'm like,
What are we doing?
There's something being cooked up. Yeah. And I really appreciate that out of wrestling. I thought Raw was great. Yeah. I'm excited about NXT tonight. And I'm very excited. Honestly, it goes back to what I was saying about the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble for me every year was kind of like predictable.
Yeah.
I only cared about the surprises. Now I don't care about the surprises.
It's like, what are we gonna see?
Last Royal Rumble, they told stories within the Rumble match, and it's funny because we're talking about this is the reconditioning era of WWE where they're trying to change your perception of the product and how people are perceived.
Yeah.
But like you see Ivar going on a singles run, and you see the Bronson Reeds of the world, and you see the Creed brothers, and you see all of these different things happening. WWE is going to get to the point where, whether you like to admit it or not, WWE will get to the point where they're going to change your mind on certain things. And it started with The Miz. I mean, it started with other things, but The Miz was like a big thing where it's like, yeah, go out there and have a banger. And you're like, what? Like The Miz? The Miz?
Right. Is going out to have a banger.
But what's cool is like with The Miz and the DIY thing last week where it was like they did the 6-man tag match.
Yeah.
It's like, they also didn't insult your intelligence about how Tommaso Ciampa hated The Miz for not calling him for 8 months when he was injured.
No, they literally played into it.
They play into it. So it's like they do those types of things. And I'm like, man, it's pretty nice not having my intelligence insulted. And for that reason, man, I'm excited about the Royal Rumble. I'm excited about WrestleMania and Elimination Chamber. I'm excited about regular episodes of TV. But the one thing that I will say before we end off with the stream, there's two things I want to say.
Okay.
With WWE right now, the product is hot. We see them cooking with the Judgment Day. R-Truth getting involved is just another added element to the point where when the Judgment Day officially breaks up, that's going to play a role into it.
Yeah.
They're learning from the Sami Zayn, the Judgment.
Right. They're just going to use R-Truth as the middleman to actually split them.
But he's great. He's 50-something years old. He's over as hell. He's funny as hell. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to say is that with WWE right now, and I told you this before in private, but eventually it's going to get cold again. It will happen. That's how the business works. Things will get cold, not creatively, but from a business perspective. Yeah. You gotta put into the factor of like the real world economy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I look at WWE, as long as they keep doing what they're doing, I will keep enjoying what WWE does. If they go away from the vision, I think that's the problem. And right now, the vision is make matches matter, make storylines matter, make characters matter, and most importantly, showcase that this company is all about progression.
Right.
Characters are progressing, which is fantastic. It's easy to get invested in characters.
Create new stars.
It's easy for me to be like, I like the Creed brothers, but I don't think they're ready for the main roster. Then they put them on the main roster, and it's all working out.
Mm-hmm.
I like DIY, but you put them together, it's working out. I like the fact that they're trying these different things, and I like that it's keeping me invested because now there's a little bit of confidence. When I saw Carmelo Hayes beat Grayson Waller, and that was an amazing match, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of excited about what they could do with these call-ups now. Now I have a little bit more confidence. There's a synergy between NXT and Raw and SmackDown where it's like, yeah, you could call these people up.
It all just floats.
I don't worry for the Tiffany Strattons in the world and Roxanne and Cora Jade and Braun Breaker and all these guys. And look at Dragon Lee. He is going to be the next Rey Mysterio. And it's because of the way that they're doing this stuff. And it's like, I like it. I enjoy it. Shout out to Combat Sports today, $4.99. Combat Sports CST, one of my favorite spots for all MMA stuff. dropping a $4.99 super sticker. Which I will say this, because I know you pay attention. Did you see the Sean Strickland and Dricus Duplessis fight in the crowd?
Yeah.
I put out
Strickland's a psychopath.
That stuff is crazy, bro. But I just wanted to say, I thought it was very funny in MMA, UFC specifically. It started to become like WWE.
It is.
So just cool stuff, man. But
Love it.
listen, I like conversations like this. I like when we could just talk about random shit.
100%.
And guys, we'll keep doing them. We got a super chat from I Am Not Avery for $1.99. Keep doing what you're doing, fellas. Appreciate it, my bro. Yeah, we will. I like random conversations. I like just talking about wrestling and stuff.
It's fun.
And obviously, we'll get back to doing the live review shows. I kind of wanted to just do an impromptu stream, see how it's working, see how it's going. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're not subscribed to Billy TKO on YouTube, he's making wrestling content as well.
My man.
YouTube.com/BillyTKO. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment on his channel. Say that Ango sent you.
Let me know.
For sure. King David says, do more of these, Ango. Yeah, we'll do them. We'll do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be fun, man. It'll be fun. But
it will be.
With that being said, my friends, thank you all for joining us. This is just an impromptu live stream. So fun stuff.
Definitely. Peace out.